Reddit. What is one thing that instantly tells you everything you need to know about a person? I used to work in customer service for a fancy department store. The moment someone would pull out their credit card to pay, and I'd see them casually toss their crumpled receipt onto the floor, right in front of me. Red flag. Hasta nope. It's not about the money. It's the blatant disregard for even the smallest courtesy. Like, my time and mess are more valuable than your space. Always ended up being demanding and entitled later. I saw a guy at a restaurant once, meticulously arranging his silverware before the food even arrived. Each fork, knife, and spoon was perfectly aligned, parallel to the table edge. Then, when the waiter accidentally brushed his arm, he completely lost it, shouting about incompetence. It wasn't about neatness. It was about control. That intense need to micromanage everything, even tiny details, told me he'd be a nightmare to be around. At a friend's party, someone was bragging about their expensive vinyl collection. Fine, whatever. But then someone else asked them about their favorite track on one of the albums, and they just blanked. Said they bought it for the cover art. Later, I saw them scrolling through their phone, taking pictures of the album covers to post online. It was all about the aesthetic, not the art. Zero depth. I'm walking my dog, a big fluffy lab, through the park. A woman with a tiny, yappy dog approaches. My dog is leashed, well-behaved. Her dog is off-leash, barking nonstop. Instead of calling her dog or apologizing, she says, "Oh, he's just being friendly," while it's actively trying to attack mine. The lack of responsibility and expectation that everyone else should just tolerate her pet's bad behavior. Yep, that's her personality in a nutshell. I was interviewing for a team project. Everyone was throwing out big ideas. One candidate, though, spent the entire time talking about their contributions and accomplishments, rarely acknowledging the collective. Even when asked about challenges, it was always how I overcame it. No collaboration, just a solo performance. They'd be impossible to work with, constantly needing to be the star. At the local farmer's market, I watched a customer haggle aggressively over a few cents for a tomato, like genuinely trying to shave down the price of fresh produce. Then, a few minutes later, I saw them buying a ridiculously overpriced designer coffee without batting an eye. It wasn't about frugality. It was about where they chose to exert power and where they felt entitled to spend carelessly. Showed a real disconnect. I once saw a young man in a bookstore browsing the philosophy section. He picked up a book, flipped through it for a solid minute, then put it back. When I asked if he liked it, he said, "Nah, too many words." He then proceeded to buy a novel with a movie tie-in cover. It wasn't about intellectual curiosity. It was about the appearance of it. Substance over style, or lack thereof. I'm at a bar, and this guy starts complaining loudly about how everyone else is so basic. He's dressed in what he thinks is edgy, obscure fashion. Then, his phone buzzes, and he whips out the latest, most popular smartphone model and starts scrolling through TikTok with a completely blank expression. The desperation to be unique, while simultaneously following every mainstream trend, told me everything I needed to know. Zero self-awareness. I'm a barista. The other day, a guy comes in, orders a ridiculously complicated drink with customizations that would make a chemist blush. He then proceeds to complain, loudly, that it's not exactly how he pictured it in his head, even though the drink itself was perfect. The sheer entitlement and lack of self-awareness were deafening. He didn't care about the person making it, only his perfect fantasy. Instant red flag. Walking my dog, a very friendly golden retriever. A woman with a tiny yappy dog walks by. My dog gives a polite tail wag. Her dog lunges and snarls. Instead of apologizing or controlling her pet, she glares at me and says, "Well, your huge dog could have scared mine." The immediate blame-shifting and lack of basic accountability told me everything I needed to know about her general approach to life. In a quiet library, I saw a student absolutely tearing through a pile of books, leaving them splayed open, pages creased, and spines bent. They weren't even taking notes, just flipping through aggressively. It wasn't curiosity. It was disrespect for the knowledge and the shared space. It screamed, "I'm here for the performance, not the substance," and that lack of care was a clear indicator. This one's easy. How someone treats the airport staff. I've seen it countless times. The person who is polite and patient with a gate agent, even when there's a delay. Usually a decent human. The one who immediately starts shouting and demanding special treatment? Yeah, don't get on their flight. Their whole interaction is a microcosm of their personality. At the checkout line, the cashier is scanning items. The person in front of me is glued to their phone, completely disengaged. When it's time to pay, they snap their head up, surprised, and then ask, "Did you find everything okay?" with an impatient tone, as if the cashier's job is to be invisible until they decide to pay attention. Zero present moment awareness, zero courtesy. I volunteer at a local animal shelter. The way people interact with the shy, scared animals. Some folks just want the cuddly ones, which is fine. But the ones who sit patiently, speak softly, and let the timid cat or anxious dog come to them, those are the ones with true empathy. You can see the quiet understanding in their eyes. That's pure character. When someone calls tech support and their first words are a flood of panic, this is a disaster, or you have to fix this now, before explaining the problem. It tells me they're likely to be difficult, unrealistic, and quick to blame. A calm, concise description of the issue, that's someone who is probably reasonable and prepared to work with you. Sitting at a diner, I watched a man send back his perfectly good burger. Not because it was undercooked or wrong, but because he decided he wanted something else after taking a bite. The waitress, bless her, just said, "No problem, sir. What would you prefer?" His smug little smile as he ordered again, that was the whole story. A sense of unearned superiority. I was waiting for my flight at the gate when a woman, rushing past, accidentally bumped a guy's coffee. Just a little splash, mostly on the floor, a tiny bit on his pristine white shirt. He froze, looked down, then slowly looked up at her with pure, unadulterated venom in his eyes. He didn't say a word, just that look. She mumbled apologies, offered napkins, but he just stood there, burning holes through her. Didn't need to hear him speak. I knew everything. On a first date with a new guy, everything seemed fine for the first 20 minutes. Then the topic of past relationships came up. He spent the next half hour meticulously dissecting every single flaw of his ex-girlfriend, then his ex-fiancée, then even his college girlfriend. Every single one was crazy, controlling, or demanding. Not once did he reflect on his own role. I knew then that I was going to be another crazy ex story eventually. We were at a busy cafe, trying to enjoy brunch, when a toddler at the next table started having a minor meltdown. Crying, whining, nothing too wild. The parents were doing their best to calm him down. I saw a man across the room, who looked perfectly put together, visibly sigh and roll his eyes, then make a very theatrical display of putting on noise-canceling headphones. It wasn't the crying that was annoying, it was his reaction. Total lack of empathy. My office building has a lovely cleaning crew who work late. One evening, I saw a senior manager, usually so charming and jovial with colleagues, bark an order at one of the cleaners to move her cart out of his way in the hallway. No please, no thank you, just a dismissive flick of the hand. Minutes later, I saw him suavely schmoozing with the CEO in the elevator. It was a stark, instant reveal of who he really was. I was on a quiet carriage train, enjoying a book, when a guy 2 rows ahead decided to take a conference call on speakerphone. Loud, with his laptop open, also playing some background noise from a different meeting. Other passengers gave him dirty looks, some even gently shushed. He just cranked up his own volume, completely oblivious or uncaring. The entire carriage was his private office. Self-absorbed much? Yes, that much. We were out for a celebratory dinner with a group of friends, some new, some old. When the bill came, we all decided to split it evenly since we'd shared appetizers and wine. One of the newer acquaintances, Mark, meticulously went through the bill, item by item, with his phone calculator. He then demanded everyone pay him back for the 75 cents extra he paid for the shared olives. He wanted his exact share back. Never invited him out again. I was giving peer feedback on a project at work, a standard process to help improve presentations. I gently pointed out one slide was a bit dense with text. My colleague didn't just disagree. He launched into a 5-minute explanation about why my feedback was fundamentally flawed, how I didn't understand the nuance, and how his method was actually superior. The defensiveness was immediate and absolute. It showed me he wasn't interested in growth, just validation. I was getting coffee behind a woman who seemed perfectly calm and composed. She ordered her usual latte. The barista then apologetically told her they were out of oat milk, only almond or regular. Her face literally morphed. She didn't just get annoyed, she had a full-blown meltdown right there, shouting about how her day was ruined, how impossible this was, how incompetent everyone was. All over oat milk. I'll stick to black coffee. I was stuck in a massive traffic jam, barely moving for what felt like an hour. Everyone was tense, horns occasionally blaring. Then I watched a guy in the lane next to me. A car ahead needed to merge, clearly struggling. Instead of closing the gap, he slowed down, made eye contact with the other driver, and waved them in with a genuine smile. No aggression, no pity. Just a moment of pure, calm consideration amidst chaos. That's all I need to know about someone. How they treat strangers when no one important is watching. I lend out books, movies, even tools pretty regularly. But I've learned that the true measure of a person isn't whether they return it, it's how they return it. My new neighbor borrowed my electric hedge trimmer last week. He brought it back today, not just clean of all clippings, but he'd actually sharpened the blades and topped up the oil. No fanfare, just a quiet thanks again. That's a person who respects your property, your time, and goes the extra mile. They're a keeper. I was at the park, sitting on a bench, when a little girl, maybe 5 years old, tripped and dropped her ice cream cone all over the path. She burst into tears. Her mom was still walking towards them, not seeing it. But a man nearby, engrossed in his phone, looked up instead of sighing or ignoring it. He crouched down, pulled a wipe from his bag, cleaned her hands, and then bought her another cone from the truck. He didn't have kids with him. That kindness for a total stranger's child tells me everything. My ultimate test for a new acquaintance: play a competitive board game with them. We were playing Catan, and this new guy, Dan, was clearly losing. Hard. His strategy fell apart. Luck wasn't on his side. Most people get a bit salty or quietly frustrated. Dan just leaned back, laughed at his own bad rolls, started cheering on other players, and made jokes about becoming a settlement-less wanderer. No tem beer, no blaming lucky, no poaching. Just good fun. Instantly knew he was a genuinely good sport. I was walking out of a hardware store when an elderly woman dropped her massive bag of soil, which burst open everywhere. She looked utterly defeated. Before I could even think, a young construction worker, still in his muddy boots and dirty vest, jogged over. He didn't ask if she needed help. He just knelt down, scooped the soil back into the ripped bag as best he could, taped it up with duct tape from his belt, and then carried it to her car for her. His automatic, unhesitating kindness was powerful. You just know. I live in an apartment building with thin walls. My new downstairs neighbor's got a dog, and for a few weeks, I heard a lot of barking and whining. I was bracing myself for endless complaints. Then, one evening, I overheard the owner talking to her dog in the hallway. She wasn't yelling, wasn't frustrated. She was calmly, gently teaching it to stay, repeating encouraging words, and giving treats. Not shut up, but good boy, almost there. The patience and love in her voice. Yeah, I instantly knew she was a good one.